All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 112, I think. No, 212. There we go. Numbers are hard. So, today, I'm just going to give a blanket announcement. Gen Con started today. Over the next 4 days, a lot of information is going to be coming out that affects the TTRPG world. So, for the most part, for the next 4 days, I'm probably only going to be talking about Gen Con stuff. There are going to be some videos like this one where I talk about just one tabletop RPG, or in this particular instance, one company, Darrington Press. And then there'll be other ones where I just kind of pick and choose, smaller stories and put them together. But even just right now, I have like 3 different videos that I could possibly make just based on the announcements that happened today. So, if you're here for tabletop RPG content, you're going to get lots of it over the next few days. So, that being said, we got to talk about some Darrington Press stuff. Darrington Press, for anyone that doesn't know, Darrington Press is the publishing arm of Critical Role. They have multiple board games out. They have multiple tabletop RPGs. I have both of them right there. They have Daggerheart, and then right next to it is Candela Obscura. And obviously, they're connected to Critical Role, which is one of the biggest, or is the biggest live play series in the world. So, they had a panel earlier today where they made just a shit ton of announcements. So, we're going to be kind of going over everything that was announced. Now, I am going to say right now, I was asleep when the panel went on, and I have not watched the panel itself. However, Darrington was nice enough to have an article they put up that basically summarized all the stuff that they announced. So that's what I'm going on. If there was something big at the panel that they don't mention in this, feel free to mention it in the comments. There's so much information is going to be coming out over the next few days that following it on watching every single panel is just not something my brain's going to let me do. So I'm going to be using a lot of summaries and things like that to get you guys as much information as possible. So, with that being said, let's talk about the stuff that they announced. First things first, one of the things they announced kind of deals with one of the quote-unquote problems some people had with the Daggerheart physical set. If you haven't played Daggerheart, Daggerheart is a card-based RPG. And what I mean by that is very similar to like 4th edition, which I still have. This isn't 4th edition. This is, what is it called? Gamma World. But it uses the 4th edition rule set. Here we go. But all of the different abilities are on these cards like that. That's kind of how Daggerheart works, where your ancestry has its own card. Your each domain ability has its own card. Your subclass has its own card, and then each upgrade to the subclass has its own card. So while you're playing Daggerheart, it's kind of expected that in addition to your character sheet, you're going to have the cards that apply to your character. And for groups that didn't, just wanted to buy like one set for the entire group, which is a really, really common thing for D&D groups in general, especially home groups, they were a little bit bummed out that the cards are such an integral part. Like, there isn't a place on your character sheet, really, that you can list all of the information on your cards. Can you put it there? Absolutely. But it doesn't work anywhere near as well as the cards. The cards are really designed to be used. But the core set only comes with one set of domain cards. And if I remember correctly, I think the Ancestries, they come with like 2 of them. And I think the Origins come with like 2 as well. But that means if you have more than two people that want to use the same ancestry in your group, one of them's not getting a card. Or if you have two people playing classes that share a domain and they both decide that they want to take the same domain ability, one of them's not getting a card. And that was kind of annoying to some people. And so they were asking, well, hey, can we get just the cards or anything like that? So they have an answer. They're now selling what are called class packs, or they're not selling it now. They're going to be running a Kickstarter for it in September, so a little over a month away. They are going to be kickstarting this thing called class packs. Effectively, these class packs, and I'm just going to read directly from their little press release here. These packs of 76 cards will hold everything an individual player needs to play their class, from level 1 all the way up to level 10. Ancestry cards, community cards, subclass cards, and all the cards from the two domains each unique class uses. The class packs will come with a PDF excerpt with just what you need to build and learn to run your character, but Kickstarter backers will also get the full digital PDF of the core rules book as a perk. All 9 classes from the Daggerheart core set will be available as class packs come September. Sign up to be notified when it goes live. So, basically, they're going to be selling the cards on their own without having to buy the full set, and they're going to be organized into, again, these class packs. I have no idea what the pricing is going to be. They did not announce that, or at least they didn't put it in this press release. But it does mean that there's a way for you to get basically extra copies of the specific cards that you want. And I'm certain if somebody wants to be clever, they can probably figure out which particular classes they need to buy to basically get a second copy of every single domain card. Because if you're unaware, the way that classes work in Daggerheart is each class is assigned 2 domains. And so half of their class abilities effectively come from one domain, half come from another, and they always share those domains with one other class. So theoretically, I think if you take enough time, you could probably figure out which classes that you need to buy to be able to get one copy of everything. Though with the fact that there's an odd number of classes, I don't know. I haven't done the math or anything to figure out if you're going to have to absolutely buy one class that's going to give you 2 copies of something. But again, this is them basically fixing a problem that people have been pointing out. Now, with the fact that they're kickstarting it, and they already have really nice, like the artwork for the class packs already shows the final packaging, or at least a mock-up of the final packaging, complete with the little hanger hook thing that would be required to have these on like store shelves and game stores and stuff like that. So I don't know if this was something that was always planned, or as soon as the game launched and people were going, well, why can't we just buy the cards? They went, ooh, that's definitely, it's a valid question. Why can't we just buy the cards? A lot of people, especially if you get the digital version through Nexus Demiplane, one person can buy the digital version of the game and then have a subscription to Demiplane, and the entire table gets access to everything. Character creator, the full core book, everything. And so, well, yes, you can still use the digital one if you want those physical cards, because they are nice. This is a valid way to get it. I'll be interested to see what they price them at, because that specifically is probably going to influence a lot of people on how happy they are about this. But this does seem like a nice way, because simply just selling the cards on their own, especially since there's already a print on demand option that you can get as part of the PDF that you can get through Drive-Thru RPG. As part of the PDF you can get through Drive-Thru RPG, you can buy the print on demand cards as well. But printing cards, they never look as nice as professionally printed cards, and depending on how you're printing them, they may be really shitty. So yeah, and printing double-sided in general, as much as printing technology has gotten significantly better, it's still a bit of a pain in the ass. So very cool the thing there. The second thing they talked about, which is actually available right now, is what they call the home brew kit. Basically, it's a little document that goes into details about how they designed each class and subclass and environments and all those different things to help you if you want to homebrew your own thing. I've seen, like, a good example, Finster's Monstermatic book for Essence 20, specifically the Power Rangers RPG. In there, there's a complete guide on, okay, these are the guidelines we use to create monsters. This is what the threat level means. This is what you need to be able to build your own stuff completely from scratch. Some companies do that. A lot of them don't. If we look at D&D, specifically 5.5, the monster manual and the DMG both specifically omit the idea of, oh, by the way, if you want to design your own monsters, here's kind of the guidelines that we use. They actively kind of discourage you from making your own monsters, and they just kind of suggest, why don't you just like tweak the ones that we've already made? So the fact that Darrington Press is putting this stuff out there is really nice and very, very useful. As long as we're on the topic of homebrew, yesterday, I think, they did make an update to their community gaming license. They added 2 new whitelisted virtual to the tabletops, meaning people are allowed to create Daggerheart products for these tabletops. They are Fantasy Grounds and another one that I didn't recognize. But Fantasy Grounds is a real big one. So we have that. They also changed some wording and things like that to specifically say home games are not in any way considered public sharing or anything like that. So you don't actually, anything that you do for your home games, you don't have to abide by the community gaming license. And they also specifically talked about what you can and can't stream as far as live plays. They specifically stated that you are allowed to use their campaign frames as part of your live play series and things like that. Which again, it's really weird that they keep doing this. My theory now, and this is entirely a theory, is they either have a lawyer on staff now, or, and I think it's slightly more likely the second one, they have hired a lawyer on a contract basis who basically wrote their community gaming license for them, because it's a legal document. Bare minimum, it would have been monumentally stupid for them to not have a lawyer at least look it over. If they decided to write their own, which I sincerely doubt. Like, I don't think Matt Mercer just sat down at a computer and went, community gaming license. No, they've had a lawyer write this out for them. And my theory is whomever they got to write this has no idea how the TTRPG community works, or how live play series works. And it feels like, because every time we get an update to this community gaming license, which is insane how many updates have happened within the past, 2 months that it's been out? Each one is this little piecemeal of, okay, I'll let you do this, I'll let you do that. And a lot of them, like I said, I always thought it was weird that Darrington Press thought that they could sue you or DMCA you if you did a live play series using Age of Umbra. Like, 100%, I do not believe that would hold up in court. Someone would have to fight them over it, which would cost a lot of money, which would mean even if it wouldn't hold up in court, it would prevent a lot of people from doing it just because they don't have the money to fight a group like that. But it always seemed just so weird that they thought that they could say, well, no, you're not allowed to live play this aspect of our game. Only we're allowed to live play that. I've never in a million years heard of that happening. And so now they specifically state, well, no, you can use them. So part of me thinks that whomever wrote this thing wrote it with the idea of, I am going to make sure that we have ultimate control over Daggerheart because this IP is very important to the company that's paying for this. And so I am going to write an ironclad license that allows them to have 100% control over everything. And then the Darrington Press and the Critical Role guys are going, God, we can't do that. No, you can't tell them that we want them to use their. That's why we put the campaign frames. We want to see them doing Age of Umbra and the Colossus one and the Beast Feet. We want to see them doing that. Can you just make a little change so that they're allowed to do that? I get it. You know, we don't want to open it up to everything because then bad things can happen. But can we just have some wording in there? It's got to be possible. That is my theory because again, the fact that this community gaming license is changing so rapidly doesn't make sense to me. The first open game license, I think, had like 2 changes in like a decade. And this one, we are already on our like 4th version of the community gaming license. It's just constantly being changed. And each change is another edition of, well, you know how we said we were going to sue you if you did this? It's okay now. And it feels really, really weird. So anyway, that's the homebrew kit. And the new changes to the community gaming license. There was also updates to all the Void stuff, like the new ancestries that they put on there. The new classes all have a 1.5 version. I might go into details on that later. I might not. That's much more complicated than I wanted to get into. But anyway, moving on. I needed to drink. There's lots of stuff they announced. The next thing they announced is the Romantasy campaign frame. And again, I'm just going to read directly from the press release. Get your roses ready. All right, I gotta get the right voice for this. This is not super aggressive. This is a Romantasy. Get your roses ready as we have a new campaign frame, and it is all Romantasy. With love and magic, set your game in a world of power and prospect, deeply inspired by Tusk Love. Enemies and admirers alike are your rivals as you set out to take this year's matchmaking season in the shining empire of Lumisara, the City of Crowns. So they're coming up with a new campaign frame that is specifically tailored around Romantasy. If you're not familiar with the term Romantasy, it is a subgenre of the romance fiction genre of books. Specifically, they're romance novels set in fantasy settings, like Tusk Love. If you guys remember the A Million Little that book fair convention thing that went horribly wrong, that was a Romantasy convention. So Romantasy is apparently a pretty big deal. Fun fact, romance books sell like wildfire. If you're good at it, you can make a decent amount of money as long as you're putting out a lot of romance books. But they sell really good. They don't sell for high prices. Like, you're not going to be selling like a $20 Romantasy, but you can probably get between $7 to $10 MSRP on them, and they sell like wildfire. So anyway, they're making a Romantasy campaign frame. I'll be interested to see how that one goes, because even in Romantasy, where's the fantasy aspect, combat's not really a huge portion of Romantasy. I've heard... I haven't actually read any Romantasy, but I've done a little bit of research into it for stuff like this. Combat's not a really big thing, and like the vast majority of your abilities in Daggerheart, like all your domain stuff, that is almost exclusively combat oriented. There's very little non-combat rules in Daggerheart. Which doesn't mean that you can't have non-combat stuff. The experience system is designed to be your kind of non-combat role-playing stuff, but they just leave a lot of it up to the GM to kind of rule on what's going to work and what's not. So I'll be interested to see if the Romantasy campaign actually adds in more kind of custom rules for role playing and things like that, because that theoretically should be a large part of it. So yeah, moving on. Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford. I don't know if they were actually on the panel or not, but they were talked about significantly. They specifically listed what those two are going to be focusing on. Jeremy Crawford, and again, directly from the press release, Jeremy Crawford will take point on a full setting for Daggerheart inside a hellishly terrifying genre, while Chris Perkins will weave tales spanning campaign frames to a wider interconnected adventure supplement. Stay tuned for more on the horizon. So, Crawford and Perkins are not working on the same projects, which again is not a strange thing. If you saw how D&D worked, I mean, to be honest, for the past decade, at any given time, there was 3 or 4 different books being written. You had your main adventures, you had your kind of adventure compendiums, and you had your source books, and all of those were being developed simultaneously so they could put them out, 3 or 4 of them a year. And both Perkins and Crawford's kind of jump between those different things depending on what it was that they were designed to do, or what they were expected to do. So the idea that Crawford and Perkins are technically working together but are working on completely separate projects, that makes perfect sense. I will guarantee that as Crawford gets his actual full-on campaign setting more kind of solidified, Perkins will probably consult on it. And Perkins will, as he's designing his stuff, Crawford will work on it. But to talk specifically what they're doing, so Crawford is specifically going to be making a Daggerheart campaign setting. And specifically, it says, full setting for Daggerheart inside a hellishly terrifying genre. So I'm thinking it's going to be something along the lines of, there was a book that came out called Descent into Avernus. It was one of their yearly adventures, and basically what happens was this city of Elturel in the Forgotten Realms got sucked into the first layer of hell, Avernus. And so the adventure happened there, and so you got to deal with the Blood War, which if you've played Baldur's Gate 3, you kind of get an introduction to what the Blood War is. So I'm thinking, based on what they're saying here, Crawford is going to be creating a campaign setting that specifically features, because they say hellishly terrifying genre, I think it's going to feature demons and things like that, and be much more akin to a horror setting than is going to be to a high fantasy setting. Think something like Ravenloft, or again, Descent into Avernus, things like that. I think it's very possible that our first full Daggerheart campaign setting will have that. Perkins, on the other hand, is going to be writing adventures. Adventures is what Chris Perkins does better than probably almost anybody on the planet. I have run adventures that Chris Perkins wrote. They are always immensely fun to run. He is an expert adventure designer. So what it sounds like he's going to be doing is he's going to be writing adventures for each one of the campaign frames, and then he's going to create some sort of overarching narrative that connects these campaign frames in some way, shape, or form. Whether we're going to see like a multiversal type thing where each one is its own separate dimension, or we're going to see like a world tree style thing where they all are connected, but they're separated by some sort of barrier, and somebody is able to break through that barrier to get to the other campaign frames. I have no idea, but it excites me. A lot of the campaign frames I really, really like, and I think they're interesting. I absolutely adored the Age of Umbra live play. We'll get to more information about that in a second. Age of Umbra, in and of itself, is an incredibly interesting campaign frame. The other one that I really, really, really like is the Colossus one. I can't remember what it's called. I have to look this up or my brain's not going to allow me to continue recording this video. So give me 2 seconds while I open up my core rulebook. Campaign frames. What's it called? Five Banners Burning, The Witherworld, Beast Feast, Motherboard. Motherboard's another one that's really cool. Colossus of the Drylands. That's what it's called. So, Colossus of the Drylands, I love so much. Because it is like a combination of like Weird West and Shadows of the Colossus. So there's like weird eldritch gunslingers combined with giant monsters that you have to climb on them to kill. It's so cool. So as far as I can tell, Perkins is going to be working inside of these already created campaign frames and finding a way to link them. So you theoretically could have a campaign that you run through these little kind of one-shot and two-shot style adventures. Which is actually very, very similar to how the Adventurers League works, where each one of, or at least that's how it used to work. I have no idea how it works now, because so many things have changed and I haven't played it in years. But basically, each adventure was completely self-contained, but they all took place in a similar place, and you could link up the various adventures to create your own little customized campaign. And they actually did that for the season 4, I think it was, the Ravenloft season. All of the adventures were designed to be run one after another as kind of a secondary Ravenloft campaign. And it was a really, really cool thing. They didn't execute it very well, but in hindsight, it is equally as interesting as the Curse of Strahd campaign and takes you in roughly the same amount of levels and everything. So it's a similar amount of content to Curse of Strahd. It's just a completely different story that runs parallel. And so Perkins is familiar with how that stuff works. I don't know how involved he was. I don't think he was very involved in the Adventurers League at all, because for a while it wasn't connected to Wizards of the Coast. But he's familiar with that idea because he was kind of heading all the story and stuff like that. So seeing that he now gets to effectively create an Adventurers League style thing for Daggerheart is really cool. And I would love to see them use what Perkins is doing specifically to create their own organized play program. I think that would be exceptionally good for not only for Darrington, because it will make them money as people will buy the adventures so that their characters can go, but it'll also be good for the community as a whole, because again, I cut my teeth doing conventions, and one of the things that really, really drives convention play is living Forgotten Realms and all that. I can't remember the word anymore. Anyway, those systems where you get to bring a character and you just sit down at a table and kind of go and expand and stuff like that. Those are huge for conventions. They drive a lot of people to conventions to be able to play the new adventures and stuff like that. So I would really love to see Chris Perkins kind of implement something like that using this thing that he's going to be making. Or again, it could just be a set of interconnected one-shots that are very, very fun as well. But that has me really, really excited. Moving on. The next big announcement they make, Age of Umbra gets a season 2. If you didn't watch it, you missed out. I can genuinely say Age of Umbra is probably my favorite thing that Critical Role has done since Campaign 2. I loved every second of it. I watched every single episode live, which is not something I've been able to do in years. And it was just so much fun to watch. I actually recorded, a lot of times if I had a daily vlog that was going live on a Thursday, a lot of times I either recorded it right before Age of Umbra or I would record it in the 15-minute break between the 15-minute act break during Age of Umbra. So I absolutely loved it. It's apparently getting a season 2. If you watched season 1, I mean, they ended on kind of a they had a good resolution. It didn't feel final or anything like that. Like they left it open, but a lot of stuff happened in Age of Umbra. Like a lot of stuff. So seeing that they're getting a season 2, I think is going to be super super cool. Very very interesting. And I'm excited. Again, I loved the first Age of Umbra. I would love for them to do that. I would love to see them do a a series in every one of their campaign frames. But you know, if all they're doing is Age of Umbra, because that was for anyone who doesn't know, Age of Umbra was the campaign frame that Matt Mercer specifically wrote. Because like Colossus of the Drylands, that was designed by Carlos Sisko, Rowan Hall, Spencer Stark, and Mike Underwood. And then if we go to Motherboard was, I'm going to mispronounce your name. I apologize. Megui, something like that, Baker, Rowan Hall, and Spencer Stark. So some familiar names there. Age of Umbra is just Matt Mercer. Matt Mercer is the only person that worked on Age of Umbra, so that's his kind of baby. Beast Feast was Banana Chan, Rowan Hall, and Spencer Stark. Sounds like Spencer Stark and Rowan Hall were like making most of these. Five Banners Burning was Mike Underwood, and only Mike Underwood. And then the Wither Wild was Carlos Sisko, Rowan Hall, and Spencer Stark. Or Starkey, I'm not sure. There's an E on the last end of their name, so I'm not sure if it's Stark or Starkey. Anyway, so it makes sense that Critical Role would focus on the Age of Umbra because that was Matt's campaign frame. However, the rest of these campaign frames are really, really well designed, and I'd love to see the Critical Role cast actually have their take. I'd love to see the Critical Role cast do these campaign frames with Matt not being the game master. I would love to see like Liam take a shot at running Colossus of what's it? Can never remember the names. Colossus of the Drylands, or see Laura Bailey run like a Beast Feast adventure or something like that. Like that, I think would be super cool. But speaking of that, Darrington Press have actually teamed up with a bunch of different live play groups to run Daggerheart miniseries. I'm going to try this one more time. Legends of Evantris, which is I'm going directly to their web site. So I'll redirect from there. We're a tabletop stream that loves the game, the stories, and each other. And it's basically it's a live play series. However, Evantris I've got to find the thingy. They do have a YouTube channel. There we go. And their YouTube channel has 2.19 million subscribers. Yes, I know. All right, has 2.19 million subscribers and over 1,000 videos. So they're a very, very well-established group that has been putting up stuff. It looks like for over 6 years, as far as their YouTube channel is concerned. So they're a very big group. They are going to be doing a mini-series. There's going to be a one-shot by Dungeons and Daddies, and then bonus action, which is the one that I am most interested in, because bonus action is another TTRPG live play group on YouTube. However, they only have 4 a little over 4,000 subscribers. So they're not that much bigger than me. So all I'm saying is if we get some more subs here, maybe Critical Role is going to call me up and go, hey, you're a super cool dude and you made us cry once. Why don't you do an official Daggerheart thingamabob? Or maybe because now I don't know if you guys know this, but I actually have a friend that works for Darrington Press now. Yeah, because Chris Perkins and I were friends. He's said it twice. Once of which was on the internet, and then that it's real. So Chris Perkins and I are friends. So maybe Chris will just call me up and he's like, "Hey, Jody, my friend." By the way, that's not what Chris Perkins sounds like at all. He has a much higher voice, but anyway, he'll just go, "Hey, Jody, we thought it'd be really cool if you would run an official game, and I'll totally play at your table because we're friends." So anyway, all I'm saying is I'm 30 subs away from 1,000 subscribers, which is the bare minimum I need to be able to monetize this channel. So just tell your friends to come subscribe to me, because I'm only 30 away, and I've only been doing this for 12 years. So, but anyway, yeah, so bonus action. If I remember correctly, the announcements for bonus action was they were effectively doing games in, I think, every campaign frame. So they were doing these little one shots or something. There wasn't a ton of information about it, but they were doing these different one shots in every single campaign frame, which is super cool. And now Darrington is also partnering with Dungeons and Daddies, which is their own thing that's been going on for a long time, and Legends of Avernus, or Avantris, sorry. For more stuff. So if you're looking for more live play content of Daggerheart, especially if you're looking for kind of like high production value stuff, I will guarantee Legends of Avantris is probably going to look very, very pretty. I'm not as familiar with bonus action, but from what I can tell, they look prettier than my stuff. Let's put it that way. And I know of Dungeons and Daddies. I don't know them very well. I've never watched any of their stuff, but they've been around for a while. So yeah, that's going to be a significantly bigger thing. And as they come up with more stuff, I will guarantee they will probably partner with other groups to get them playing Daggerheart. And I was kind of expecting something like this to happen when Candela Obscura came out. And I think that's one of the reasons why Candela Obscura kind of blipped out pretty quickly. They created this game. First of all, Candela Obscura is not a game for all tabletop RPG players. Like, it was a very, very niche kind of game. Daggerheart has a significantly wider appeal. And it's fairly obvious that they are putting a lot more marketing behind Daggerheart than they did Candela Obscura. So we're getting these live plays. They're getting more, like, there's lots of cool stuff that's going on here. So yeah, moving on. They also have some new products they announced. There's a thing called Insight Editions, which is a Daggerheart art book, or is going to be a Daggerheart art book from Insight Editions, which is looks like a coffee table book company kind of thing. Hero Forge, the Daggerheart Ancestries are going to be buildable options in the Hero Forge mini creators. If you've never heard of Hero Forge, I don't know what rock you've been living under, but basically they are a custom mini maker where you go to their website, you can design your mini on there, and then you can have them printed for you in a number of different materials, including, you know, metal or plastic or a billion other things. Not a billion, but a lot of other things. And then they will send it to you. And I think they also have the option of, like, painting it and everything for you as well. Or printing it in color. I don't know if it's actually painted or just actually printed in color. But yeah, so Hero Forge has been around for a really, really long time. So they're officially going to have the Daggerheart Ancestries in there. So if you want a physical mini of your character, that's the thing that could happen. And then there's going to be Daggerheart dice sets from Dispel Dice, Botch Dice, and Misty Mountain Gaming. So Lots of cool stuff coming there if you want physical things that you can buy that isn't specifically from Critical Role. Cool stuff that are there. Now, the final announcement that they made is probably the thing that is the most exciting. First off, we need to start off with some history. In the year 2000, in the year 2000, in the year 2000, the world of gaming changed. When 3rd edition launched, it really did change how the tabletop RPG thing worked. And one of the things that happened in 3rd edition is Wizards of the Coast sponsored a contest to create an officially published campaign setting for Dungeons and Dragons. And the person that won that contest was a gentleman named Keith Baker. And that's where the world of Eberron came from. He came up with this idea. And I think I might have done a video on it once. I know I've done a huge amount of study on it. But there was this huge long process where he had to go through multiple rounds of submissions and things like that. And eventually they chose Eberron to become an official Dungeons and Dragons setting. And ever since then, Eberron has existed. And it's an amazing, interesting setting that is nothing like the Forgotten Realms. It is kind of steampunk themed. There's a lot more kind of wilderness and exploration, whereas a lot of the Forgotten Realms, you're not really exploring, you're interacting with places that have already been settled pretty heavily. Like if you look the map of Faerun, there aren't any real sections where it's like, this is the unexplored forest. But Eberron, specifically, I think it was called Stormheart or something like that. There's a city on a continent that is almost completely unexplored. So, why are we talking about Eberron? Well, Keith Baker and Jen Ellis, who I don't actually recognize that name, but I'm going to look them up very, very quickly because I forgot to do it before I started this video. Jen Ellis, who are you? I haven't the foggiest idea who this person is, because I found a couple different Jen Ellises and they seem to be art. Oh wait, here, I think I found her Twitter. And she is the game designer and owner of Together Studios. Oh, it's the she works with Keith Baker. So yeah, anyway, going back to this. So Keith Baker and Jen Ellis are going to create effectively a campaign setting. They call, well, here, I'll just read the announcement. Finally, we have Keith Baker and Jen Ellis's new world in Daggerheart. From the minds of the fan-favorite RPG worlds like Eberron and innovative tabletop games like Phoenix Dawn Command, Illimat, and the Adventure Zone storytelling game, Together Studios, Keith Baker and Jen Ellis are partnering with us to make their next grand world using Daggerheart. Expect thrilling world building and brilliant new player option designs from this powerhouse team. So effectively, in addition to Crawford making an in-house campaign setting for Daggerheart, Keith Baker and Jen Ellis are going to be making a third-party campaign setting for Daggerheart, which is a big deal. Again, Keith Baker created Eberron. It is one of the most popular D&D settings ever. It gets regular updates. Like the 3rd edition is when it was created. There was a 4th edition version of it. There's a 5th edition version of it. There is a new supplement for D&D 5.5 that is adding the Artificer to 5.5 and is going to act as kind of a soft Eberron update for D&D 5.5. And it's just a really, really cool setting. Again, I feel very, very bad about this, Miss Ellis. I apologize. I don't recognize your name in anything. So I have no idea the things that you've made. But if you're working with Keith Baker, I assume you are very, very skilled at what you do. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Again, the reason he created Eberron was he wanted to create something that wasn't like the campaign settings that we'd been getting over and over again. Like if you look at Greyhawk and Mystara and Faerun or Forgotten Realms, like look at the majority of the campaign settings that have existed in D&D for decades. They were going up to third edition. They all were kind of high fantasy or dark fantasy, but they all kind of felt the same. He's like, I want something different. This is going to be steampunk D&D. And it turned into something amazing. Artificers are such a cool class, and I love being able to interact with them whenever I can. So yeah, I'm massively excited about the fact that Keith Baker's going to be making, they call it a new world. It's a campaign setting. But it's going to be the first official third-party campaign setting for Daggerheart. I'll also be really interested to see what comes first, Crawford's campaign setting or Together Studios campaign setting, or if they both launch simultaneously. Like from marketing head me, would think it would be in everyone's best interest to stagger the releases. So like one comes out first and another one comes out a few months later so that you're not overwhelming people. But I could also see a marketing push where they both come out at similar times and they just kind of feed off of each other's press and the things like that, just showing that Daggerheart is so big. So yeah. So overall, the panel itself, at least the YouTube video of it, was like almost 2 hours long, and they put a lot of stuff in there. We're going to have everything from, you know, again, the class packs and you know, stuff like that, to we've officially defined what Crawford and Perkins are going to be doing at Darrington Press, and both things sound amazing. There's a bunch of new actual play content that's going to be coming out, including a second season of Age of Umra, which the first one was super, super fun. And then we're also getting this new campaign setting by Eberron creator. And I would, again, I don't think Keith Baker is a one-trick pony in any way, shape, or form, so I'm not thinking that, oh, he's just going to make the steampunk version of Daggerheart. But that would be cool if he did it. Like, there's a lot of different ways he could go with his campaign setting, but steampunk Daggerheart would be very cool. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that that's the only thing he knows how to make, because he knows how to make lots of stuff. He makes a lot of real cool stuff. But I would love a steampunk Daggerheart. I think that'd be super cool. Anyway, like I said, this is going to be the daily vlog for a few days here. There's just so much stuff going on, and I need to cover as much of it as I can. So, interested to hear from you guys. What are your opinions on the announcements? Is there any particular thing that was announced that you are more excited for or less excited for? Do you have opinions on the weird things that keep happening with the community game license for Daggerheart? Because again, documents like this are not supposed to change this often after publishing. Before publishing, they go through changes like crazy. After publishing, they're not supposed to change as much. But again, interested to hear from you guys. So let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that's all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.